Good evening. My name is Nikesh. I will be presenting my research on managing people in practice/heat. My first presentation is regarding my career path. As you can see, there's not a lot to say regarding my career. But after my degree, I'd like to, hopefully during my placement actually, I would like to apply for a check-in job. So at least that will help me get into the environment, which is the airport that I'd like to work in for my future. So obviously get into check-in, stay there for a couple of years at least, learn what I need to progress within my career and hopefully become a desk supervisor. That's a role I'm planning to secure within 2 years or 3 years, if that. Hopefully after that I should try and get into my last point, which is the pilot, and to that route I'd like to pass through flight attendant, because that sort of role will help me learn more about the plane and what actually goes into the plane, and not what goes on with the ground operations and stuff like that. And also it will help me know about the health and safety issues, health regulations, all that. And lastly, obviously, once my financial situation is better and improved from my current status, I should try and progress into a pilot's training and become a pilot for any airline. My next one is on contract type. The job title I did research was on pilot, first officer, with the airline Cathay Pacific. Most of the contracts are full-time and their salary is about 80 to 200,000 pounds per annum. And the holidays they get is about 28 days. As you can see, there is a large gap between 80,000 to 200,000. This is because not all pilots fly obviously the same aircraft, and they need different training, they need different flying hours to be qualified to fly the certain type of aircrafts, and thus the large gap. Thirdly, recruitment strategy. For Cathay Pacific pilot recruitment, they advertise the jobs online, and for a candidate to apply for that job, he needs to apply, obviously look for the job, apply the job, and send in a confirmation regarding the job that he actually wants to do it, hopefully attach a covering letter. After that, Cathay Pacific will ask them to come in and interview if the application process is successful. After this interview, they will carry out various tests such as aptitude tests, general knowledge tests, stuff like that. Success in this test obviously will mean the candidate is actually hired for this job. Learning and development. For Cathay Pacific, all pilots will be given their own individual portfolios where everything regarding that specific pilot will be recorded until their whole journey throughout the company. Pilots will also be trained according to the specification. For example, as I mentioned earlier, every specific airplane has a specific pilot, so every pilot will have different portfolios, different training methods, different development methods within their career. And also regular updates, because there's no point of having a portfolio if you have old information, so it's always updated every single time a pilot goes into learning and development processes. Performance strategy. This is whereby Cathay Pacific will determine how the pilot is currently doing in the company. First of all, they will carry out gap checks, which will determine what the pilot is missing in terms of training and development. So let's say there's a new instrument that the pilot doesn't know how to use, so Cathay Pacific ensure that that pilot receives that training and can be able to use that instrument. The second bit is to have one-on-one review with the pilot. This is to ensure that the pilot can say whatever's in his mind regarding the company, or regarding his training or development, or whether he's not happy with the job or he is happy with the job, and basically anything that the pilot feels he needs to address to. It will also provide the gap charts for pilots to view their track progress. So obviously Cathay Pacific doesn't want pilots to stay where they are as soon as they come in and last there until they're retired. They want pilots to develop within their careers and earn better salaries and develop themselves mentally and physically. So obviously there will be gap charts which will determine what the pilot is missing in terms of training and development. Lastly, carry out employee presentations. This will ensure that all the staff in the company are together and bonding. So it's more of a bonding session which the pilots can carry out. Change in management. So the scenario I've gone for is a merger between Air Japan and Cathay Pacific. So let's say if this were to happen, obviously Cathay Pacific and Air Japan will have to plan the merger, so they will look at what's going to happen, what exactly needs to be done, basically what the merger entails. The second bit is to introduce the merger, so this is whereby they actually merge together in real time and see how it goes. The last bit is to evaluate the merger. For example, if one of the staff or some of the staff in Air Japan are not happy with the staff from Cathay Pacific, the issues will be addressed during the evaluation of the merger stage. HR policies and strategy. Health and safety in Cathay Pacific is obviously a serious matter, and I'm sure it is with all the other airlines. Cathay Pacific personally works with businesses to prevent catastrophic failures. So businesses will include people that install their instruments in the airports, all the cabin crews and stuff like that. Anything that the pilot will come across during his duty on the plane. This is to ensure that obviously the pilot is the person that's supposed to be in charge of the plane, and if he or she does not know how to use the instrument, then they cannot fly the plane, or they are not fit to fly the plane, should I say. The second bit is to optimize the use of resources to deliver our mission and vision. The mission and vision for Cathay Pacific is to become the best and the highest standard flying experience in the world, actually. So obviously they want to keep their customers happy, they want to keep their employees happy and the executive directors happy. So they will ensure that all the resources that are delivered focus to their aims and objectives. They will also protect people by providing information and advice. So like I said earlier, pilots will be reviewed or will be advised on anything new that goes into the plane to ensure that the pilot is giving out the perfect service and a perfect flying experience. Lastly, exit strategy, retirement is what I looked at. Once a pilot has felt that his career has come to an end, he or she will hand in a letter of resignation to his line manager. This letter will then be moved from the line manager to the human resources department, where that letter will be figured out and looked into more deeply. Once the letter of resignation is approved by the human resource department, and depending on what the situation is or why the pilot wants to leave, so if the pilot's not happy, Cathay Pacific could make an offer, hopefully change their working conditions if the pilot doesn't like it, or increase the pay, obviously to just to keep them in if they've been good. And lastly, the pilot will resign. And before the pilot's resignation, during the meeting, the pilot will be given a bonus or some sort of encouragement for the service within the airline. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.